Today I'm here with Amir Muhammad, who, if you Google his name, a lot will pop up. You go to IMDb, he has 20 films as director and 15 films as writer. Yeah, so Amir opened Kuman Pictures June 2018. Actually, the first 3 films was interestingly one Chinese, 2 sisters, Ro, Malay, and then Irul, the Indian language film. Kuman Pictures, I think it was a bit revolutionary when it came out, when Amir started, because he went to opening FIXI, which is also another revolutionary company to me, because nobody thought books had potential as a business. But this you opened after you opened FIXI, right? And what was the thought process behind it?
After a while with FIXI, it was already stable. And I wanted to go back to filmmaking because it is something I really enjoyed doing, but I enjoyed doing only really small scale kind of things. So I wanted to go back to that kind of small scale thing, but in a genre that is considered more populist. To be honest, it was kind of a random, spontaneous thing. I had read Roger Corman's memoirs, and he wrote about how he produced over 100 movies in Hollywood, but in a very indie, DIY kind of rebel spirit. Like, one of the things he does was he would find out if there was a film shoot that just ended, but they hadn't struck down the sets. So he would go in there and shoot one day, that kind of thing. So he would do crazy things like that. And he was once asked by a journalist, why is there so much mist in your films? And he said, it's to disguise the fact that the props look so cheap, so things like that. So I really enjoyed the book, even though it's not meant to be an inspirational kind of book, but perversely enough, I was inspired to say, I want to go back to filmmaking, but doing it like this, doing in very fun kind of genres. So that was the thinking 2018 when it started. And then luckily found Elise Chong. We don't have an office. We don't do TV and that kind of thing. We only do feature films that we're interested in and figure out the way to make it cheap. But this was the thinking in 2018.
Right.
I will have to say the pandemic changed
a lot,
things a lot.
Wait, sure. But then you did 3 films. How did you fund those 3 films? Was it from FIXI money?
Yes, kind of. Yeah.
So book publishing actually makes money enough to fund 3 films.
Yeah, it's kind of a long story, but yeah.
Okay.
The idea is that it would then roll, that kind of thing, lah. But unfortunately, the pandemic was a huge stumbling block to that.
I remember 2 Sisters and Irul, I think, came out first. Then Ro was the last to come out, right?
No, I mean, it was 2 Sisters first, and then pandemic, so cinema shut down. And then they sort of semi-opened, and that's when we released Ro. So that's why Ro, I think it played for like 8 weeks or something, because there were no other films releasing. So at least we can say on social media it lasted for 8 weeks. And then it kind of closed again. That's why releasing Irul became a bit difficult. So we decided to sell it to Astro first instead. Yeah.
And then Ro was, he also won Best Film. At the Festival Film Malaysia. Do you consider it a turning point? Because after that, we got taken seriously. Did it change Kuman Pictures? Did it become?
I don't know. Am I taken seriously? Sometimes it shouldn't. We shouldn't be taken seriously. I think that's the thing, because otherwise we become very poyo. I attended this meeting with 30 transgender people from the East Coast. I won't tell you the circumstances of the meeting, but we were broken up into groups, and I think I was there were only 3 non-transgender people in the room. So I was one of them. I checked before going in. It wasn't
rated? Okay.
So there were lawyers there.
Okay.
So, with a room with a table full of
feminine energy.
Trans women, only trans women.
Lots of feminine energy, and you being
so they asked, pernah ambil filem? Buat filem apa? So I said, Ro. And then I said, Ro, pernah dengar? I said, tak, Ro. Macam tu. So you need encounters like that to say that you're actually no big deal. Like 30 transgender people, none of them had heard of Ro. So we need things like that to humble us. Yes.
Okay, talking about transgender, we went to shoot at this shop one day, and there was this trans woman. As we walked in, and she was watching I Swear Not, Pisau Cukup.
Okay.
Of course, to me, that's the campiest film I think I've ever produced. It's super campy. They walked in, she's like, oh korang buat apa? Kita buat episode. And then we like, itu film kita. And then like she screamed and then
Oh, that's great. That's great.
But
It's nice when that
we didn't
happens.
bring Fazura with us. So So I mean then you went on to do Pendatang, which is interesting. That was in 2020. I don't have the date. I think it was the first quite serious crowdfunding film.
Yes.
And I say serious because like I think there was some structure to that crowdfunding. So would you recommend we crowdfund?
You know, after the success of crowdfunding for Pendatang, quite a few people asked me like, oh, how can we meet? And I want to find out how to crowdfund my film. And in a very poyo way, I would ask them, when was the last time you contributed to a crowdfunding campaign? Almost all of them said, no, they've never done it.
Right.
Then I said, you don't deserve to get it. You like if you've never had the opportunity, I mean, you've had the opportunity, but if you've never helped somebody else, your karma is crap. You will not get it. The key to it is don't say I as the creator. Our pitch was to middle class Malaysians, once again, is aren't you sick of all this racist shit, you know? Like, don't you want to see a movie that talks seriously about racism, but does it in an entertaining way, not in a sort of teaching kind of way? And this movie will be released for free, so we're not making money from it, and everybody can watch it for free. So it's a potential thing to spread, and I think that is what really pushed it to the completion point.
Of it,
It's not about I want to make a movie. It's like, who are you?
Correct.
But it's like telling the potential backer, aren't you concerned about something? Help us to make something so that you can do something about it. Yeah, that kind of thing.
I think giving that money, I think the backstory also to a lot of these crowdfunding, you know, this is like something, I mean, the last 10 years you could do, made possible. So the early days of independent filmmaking, and Amir was like a pioneer of it then, like we did a lot of films and there was hardly any money. I mean, I remember giving some money also to filmmakers. At that point, actually, my filmmaking journey kind of started also with Amir in some ways, because I walked into a screening of his film called Lips to Lips. And I walked in and said, what?
I can do better than that shit.
No, I know. I mean, like, you mean you call this a film?
Yeah, I think that's fine.
I did.
A few people have later said that to me. It's like, oh, they thought, oh, like that also can.
Yeah, and it was shot on mini DV. And I mean, those days we were shooting mini DVs for a lot of stuff. And but it made me think. It came out of that screening, and I started thinking a lot about the whole concept of film, the concept of what it means. I never wanted to go into making films because I was doing a lot of TV work and 3R and all that in the days. And that had a shift in me because I thought the concept of then making films and funding it was very interesting. So I started supporting a lot of these indie filmmakers, trying to find structure to it. We never wanted to control anything in terms of the creative, but we just wanted everyone to just see how they could do, because it was interesting narratives that was coming out, interesting stories that were coming out of these kind of films. And to me, that was interesting, and to me that was why we actually gave a lot of money. I mean, well, not a lot, but we gave money from our profits of making television to making these films. And some got banned, but never mind. But you know, it in that sense, that is the early days of crowdfunding, and the community kind of came together. They all like chip in, acted lah, gave equipment lah, whatever we could give, we gave lah. You know, and I think that spirit. Do you think that spirit still lives on now with the young people, the young filmmakers?
I would like to think so. I hope so, because otherwise, then what's the point if you don't? But maybe from my angle is that they probably interact more online, and they don't really hang out physically as much. Maybe so, you know, there are these places online that people above a certain age don't know about, you know, like Discord, you know, so I assume they hang out a lot in these kind of places. Whereas I think in our time it was more like you lepak a lot, that kind of thing. I remember locations like the Actor Studio under Dataran Merdeka, because there was a food court there, and the food court was cheap. It's not particularly good, but because it's cheap, people could meet. And
the non-halal drinks were also cheap.
Yeah, so it's like people who would not otherwise meet would meet there. Like, for example, people from Aswara, like
Yes,
Namron,
yeah.
you know, and then James Lee, who came
Yeah.
from
Theatre.
theatre, Chinese language theatre and English language theatre, and then you have, you know, instant cafe people. So it's like
Yeah.
these people normally they wouldn't hang out together.
Yeah.
Normally each will have their own place, but because there's this one kind of neutral place, I think things happen that way organically, and I think that's true of a lot of things maybe 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Maybe
yeah.
now the it's shifted more, and so yeah.
But you were successful. You have FIXI. I had television in those days.
yeah.
That was my bread and butter, and I
And
could.
some producers have parents.
Back to that, a lot of young filmmakers now I think have parents.
Yes, true.
Very, very well-off parents.
True.
Going back to independent filmmakers, I think that's definitely one way to go. Ask your parents. I always ask them. Say, ask your parents. That's the best source of money if you want to make a film. And I know a lot of, you know, especially this generation, a lot of parents are much more wealthier.
See, speaking of parents, maybe there's an anecdote. I've never shared it, but because my late father, when Lucky Communist Ahe was banned, he's someone who never really commented on the things I do. He's not like, you know, he would give feedback. He was not the type to give feedback. He was just sort of know I do things, and I would know he would support, but he didn't have to say much. So when Lucky Communist Ahe was banned, so he was upset. So he said, okay, come, let's. And it was showing in Singapore. So he said, okay, let's drive down to Singapore to watch.
Is that the only film you watched of yours? He watched
Roh also he watched, but because it was semi-pandemic, so it was sort of not advisable to bring older generation people to cinema. So ended up showing him on laptop desktop, yeah.
Right. So I mean, yeah. So I mean, evolutionary writer, director. I would say the writer first, then director, and then the producer, then the businessman. You even directed and wrote Susuk.
Yes.
That's like one of like people forgot, but I think it was quite cool those
I
days.
think it's campier than Pisau Cuko.
Maybe the director's
because
version.
I think Pisau Cuko, it was very intentional, wanted to be campy.
I think the writer didn't intend it to be campy.
Yeah.
I think the writer just wrote it and I thought this is the campiest script I've ever read. And she was like, really? I didn't intend it like, at all to be campy. Okay, never mind. Your inter-campiness came out. So yeah, that evolution of Amir Muhammad from writer, director, the son, to now becoming entrepreneur. Yeah, because you have FIXI, right? And FIXI, I mean, we've adapted Kantong. Actually, the first before the Kantong became the movie.
And Paka as well.
And Paka. So we've bought some. We did some adaptation with FIXI, and that was very interesting for me because when FIXI came out, I felt it was the stories were quite young, quite revolutionary. But my writers, my young people were reading it, and so one of the things I did was like, hey. Which one do you like? Which one? Some they will recommend me titles and stuff. So I think Gantong was one of the titles that and came out of it. I remembered you telling me that you would not adapt. Kuman won't adapt from the FIXI novels. I find that strange. Like how come? It's like natural thing to.
Because unlike some people in the industry, I'm not interested in universes. Right?
Not cinematic universes.
Yeah. No, I don't like that kind of thing because, and also because FIXI novels aren't written with movies in mind, so they tend to be somewhat, most of them, unfilmable in Malaysian context because it would be too expensive to do, or you will get into trouble with LPF, or it's just sort of ungainly. So they work as books, right? So I didn't want to do something that then it just kind of forces it to go into a medium that is not supposed to be, because actually there are two out of the hundreds of FIXI novels. There are two novels that would make great movies. One is called Kachau, which for years we tried to sell the rights to, and we managed to sell the rights, and then the rights lapsed and all that. But finally, Muzame got hold of the project, so he took over and he's finished shooting last month.
That's right. I saw that. Yeah.
So I'm very happy that I think that is one of the two books that will make great movies. Yeah.
Okay.
The other one, this is a pitch to all producers out there. It's called Bidan. You can look up reviews online. It's got fantastic reviews. It's got a strong female protagonist who time travels back to Terengganu 100 years ago during the British time, where she finds that suddenly she remembers something dramatic happened in Terengganu this year because she learned about it in sejarah, but she can't remember what because she was not the best student. So it's about the friendships she makes there, and the supernatural elements are very matter of fact. It's like, oh, that kampung is Penanggal. So it's like, oh, that kampung is Langsui. So it will make a fantastic movie. But the people I've sent it to said, oh, it will cost too much to do, you know, to recreate. Period. But they agreed it's a great story. Yeah. So those two, I think, can.
Yeah.
See, for the benefit of people watching.
And moving forward, like, you know, you still continue. I guess Kuman Pictures still continues, right?
Yes, but we have to pivot, as they say, because the film we're completing now, just finished final mix, is Sabong, which is a thriller set in Sabah, and it's a very unusual movie because it's quite trippy. It's inspired partly by Amores Perros.
Okay.
But it's about cockfighting, but it becomes a metaphor for power struggle and
wait, isn't this like a few years in the making?
Yes,
right?
yes.
So is this part from the grant or the?
Yes. Yeah. It took a while to get going because logistically shooting in Sabah and that kind of thing, but actually it's complete. We passed LPF already, so in terms of the deadline, we kept to the deadline.
So Finas was quite nice lah. They actually allow you time frame like
they
after
gave
winning.
extension. Yeah, they gave extension because but it's only 6 months lah. So we managed to pass LPF during that time.
Right. Oh, okay.
But of course there was more work to do with the sound mix and the color grading and all that lah. But we sent them the full film.
Right. Are you into getting like funding from overseas also? I mean, considering that, you know, you're quite involved in all the overseas film festivals.
Yeah, I don't know how people do it, to be honest. I've never really taken part in that kind of thing. I mean, I'm more familiar with the kind of like grants rather than co-production.
Right.
So I think grants I kind of know, but of course grants is a very small pie with like a lot of people who want things. So your chances are always very low, and the people who tend to do it well are those who, you know, they always have several projects, and it's more like what gets the most grants first will go ahead.
Right.
And they tend to be involved in the kind of films that it takes longer to raise the money than to make it. Which I kind of admire that kind of enthusiasm, but I think, wow, what kind of a way to live your life is that? Like going from project market to project market. Yeah, but it is a dream of many of us, you know, to get money from white people. So some people do it very well. I can mention, you know, people in Southeast Asia.
Yes, actually,
Yeah, they have, and good for them. I told them, actually, it's like, you know, you have a talent for getting money from white people. Don't lose it because it's a very precious gift.
Yes.
So I've had some in the past, but, you know, I'm not interested in doing it as a career. Maybe I don't have that talent to travel from market to market and to make dossier to dossier and that kind of thing. And I think to most Malaysians, that kind of way of life is quite, you find it kind of odd, right? Because I think we are more used to a more traditional way of, you go to an investor who will want to know how they make their money back here. So I think there is some, but not to the extent that you see in Philippines, Indonesia, Thailand. There are people who do that. So I think I don't know how to do that kind of thing. Yeah. But once in a while, I'm applying also for grants because, but small grant lah for a small project.
Yeah, it's. I tried. I actually went that route a little while, to try and get money from white people. Right? It's really hard. I gave up.
Right.
Honestly, I think.
Apparently, China there's money, but you know I find that even harder to understand.
What about Indonesia? I mean, look at where Indonesia is now, right? 20 years later, and where we are. And what do you think of it? I mean, what's the future? You know, compare Indonesia, compare Malaysia, and there is some similarities, but also huge differences.
Right. Yeah. I think the main difference is I think most Indonesians they have a sense of belonging Whereas here there is less of that. We can talk about politically why that is so, socially why that is so, that kind of thing. So we only see that occasionally in Malaysia, in things like winning the Thomas Cup. In Malaysia, there are very few things or people or projects or whatever that you feel that the whole nation wants to win.
Especially in the arts. I think
Yes,
that's the issue, because like those are all sports where people can just see, okay, win, lose. I mean, unless you win at the Oscars like Michelle Yeoh, you know, they always say that you have to go overseas to do well, therefore you get something in Malaysia. Even then, there's no guarantee you're going to be...
Right.
I like, do you think, because Amir is one of the few people who actually has gone to, and like you intern it, or rather that time intern in the production house in Indonesia. And spent quite a bit of time, a fair bit of time in the Indonesian films.
I enjoy it a lot. But I remember what Gary Nugroho said at the opening of the first JAF. He said that, there's a lot that Indonesian cinema can learn from Malaysia. How come we're not learning? So I thought that's very interesting. And I think Malaysians, we also tend to put ourselves down. But what he meant specifically in the context of Indonesia 2006, how come there's so many Malaysian movies in non-Malay languages? And he said, then in Indonesia, you don't get that. Because all Indonesian films back then were only in Bahasa Indonesia.
Right.
It was only later you had some films tentatively in Javanese first.
Yes.
And then later got Bugis, and then got Batak also, I think. But I think Javanese came first, because numerically. And Minang, like Paul Agosta did a film, Minang. So it's like, so when you hear things like that, you think, sometimes we don't appreciate just what we have that is different, that is unique. And maybe we feel it's something to be embarrassed about. Say, of course, hard to get box office here because we have so many languages. But no, look at it as, isn't it amazing? You can make films in different languages, and it's not an issue. Like it's not something that Pemuda UMNO will demonstrate against, like, how dare you make Chinese films? Because it's kind of, we accept it that it's what it is. So we have to look at it that way.
I actually, to me, pandemic, like one of the really things that really came out well out of pandemic is the fact that FINAS went into DKD grants. They actually tried to help out filmmakers, and I think we underestimate the role of FINAS. Yes, there has been a lot of like, mishandling, appropriation of funds, and and bad reporting, bad misunderstanding, and but I think I look at the history of it, and I feel that they have really been helping filmmakers, and during the pandemic.
What is their job? What?
Exactly. That is their job. So, but they get a lot of flack for it too. They get a huge flack for it, and I look at the FINAS like, I just see FINAS logo, and I realized that even when we were doing the early filmmaking days, when we would making small independent films, and then we got banned and other stuff, people didn't understand what were these films. I think they couldn't figure out, and it took them a few some and people in the industry and all that too. So now that I see them actually supporting a lot of films that is made by Chui Mui, the early days, Mui, all the indies in those days, and I feel that they should go back to having like the 200,000-400,000 type of grants, less than $1 million, like different levels lah, so that we can do different storytelling. Because what the difference to me
Indonesia has no FINAS.
Yes, exactly.
And they are better. So what does it say?
Exactly. What does it say? And how come they can do in a lot more interesting, more different films that it doesn't cater to a genre, to the populist thing? So, because it's, and then people say we can't find money to make films. But honestly, you can. You can. And I think FINAS plays some role. Not that I'm praising them, but I think there has been roles and areas. And in Malaysia, if you want to make a film, I think it's really quite possible. And to be called a producer. So again, back to what Amir is. He's been an executive producer, IMDb again. He's been associate producer. He's been producer. Line producer don't have because he doesn't do the work.
I don't know these things.
He doesn't do the work. The difference
The idea
between
of
your
a
projects where you
schedule
were
is like-
credited as
Yeah.
executive producer,
Huh?
producer, and associate producer.
Uh-huh.
Because you were associate producer on even on Russia. I remember, yeah.
Oh, because Russia is we are the one who brought the project to Astro, that kind of thing, but we don't own it.
So educate
that's why it's
our
not
millions of
co-producer.
audience out there. What the three different words mean.
Associate producer means it's like, oh, they are kind of our friend, but they don't own the project, and we don't owe them money. But to give face, you call them associate producer, like that kind of thing. Legally, I think there's no definition at all. But EP, I would think, even though I think in Malay film industry, the EP and the producer, they sometimes flip it around. But I think it's improved somewhat, where EP is the one who gets the money. Doesn't have to be literally their money, but they kind of source it, that kind of thing. You're not involved in the hiring people and that kind of thing, which is more the producer's job, to hire the people who are involved in it and to make sure it gets completed within the stipulated budget. I mean, that's my rough understanding.
So back to, I think encouraging young people to make films.
Yes.
What would you say?
Aside from, try to have rich parents,
you
some of
can or
them
cannot.
fail miserably. So if you fail at that, how can you succeed with anything else in life, right? I mean, that's so lame.
Okay, if you don't have rich parents
Ah.
that has multi-million, billion-dollar businesses.
Yeah. This is going to sound really pretentious, but I think in Malaysia, to be honest, budget is not really a problem, because unless you have really, ambition, you have something really ambitious in mind, that with things exploding every few seconds and all that. But you can, for something like Mentega Terbang, which it's notorious for other reasons, but it was made for very little money, right? And so if you have that realization that actually anything can be a film, then budget is not really a ceiling to you. So, and I don't think, Mentega Terbang aside, I don't think censorship is also such a big problem here. I think most of us have a kind of instinctive understanding of, actually maybe this one cannot, this one can. Of course, we'll be surprised along the way, because sometimes we think, oh, I thought that one can, but actually cannot, and vice versa, So Malaysia is surprising in some ways, but for the most part, I think if we keep our ear to the ground and we talk to people, we kind of get a sense. So I don't think censorship is the main problem. You know what the main problem is? So many people who say they want to make movies, if you were to ask them, who's your favorite local poet, you'll get blank stares. If you ask them, who's your favorite local painter, you will get blank stares. If you ask them, who's your favorite local novel, playwright, all that, you will get blank stares. Musician can. I mean, that one pass lah. Favorite musician, at least they can talk. But if you get blank stares to all these questions, I mean, you're not necessarily stupid, because, okay, you can be very successful in life, have good IQ, EQ and all that. But then what are you being nurtured by, right? And if you're very middle class, pampered or whatever, so what is your life? Are you really nurtured? Are you going through a lot of hardship that your life is so fantastic and colorful that you are a natural storyteller? Then probably not. So what are you being nurtured by? Do you know what the kind of conventions are? Even if you want to langgar them, do you know what? So I think, at least for my generation and the one slightly below, if you were to go to the filmmakers around the region, like people like Edwin in Indonesia, like Raya Martin in Philippines, definitely Apishat Pong in Thailand, Davi Chow in Cambodia, all these people, they would be able to answer every single one of those questions. Definitely.
Yeah.
They would say, oh, this poetry, this poet, or that. They don't have to love but they know. But unfortunately, in Malaysia, you don't get that. And in Singapore as well, so they suck as well.
Yeah.
So don't be sad. We are not alone. You know. But if you ask budding filmmakers, what's your favorite camera? They have things to say.
Yeah.
What's your favorite editing software? They have things to say.
Yeah.
Your list of top 5 Christopher Nolan movies, they have things to say. But if you're not nurtured, if you have no interest in what is happening around culturally, then where you're like a barren thing. You don't have that root. So which is different from filmmakers, let's say in the 80s and 90s. Even though when you look back, of course, technically there are all these flaws, you know, like wasn't proper planned. It's like, hey, kenapa baju dia tukar in the next scene because they forgot, you know, that kind of thing. So all that aside, it came from something.
Yeah.
And that's why that soul is kind of there. It's not something that is so polished, but it comes from, let's just imitate what worked in Hollywood last year.
Yeah.
You know, and by the time you make it, it's 2 years later, it's probably out of date already.
Yeah. And in the circles that I run in, I talk to people who are sponsors now, or rather who are corporate people, corporate figures who run companies, who have big companies, and sadly you sit next to them at dinner tables and they say, what do you do? I make films. And then they go, what film have you done? I said, chances are you probably would not have heard of it, because I do it for a certain audience. And it's so funny. And these are the people I wish that they would, like you say, totally, they would know more about Wes Anderson and all that. But they're Malaysians, and with money that they would probably spend on buying like expensive painting from overseas, some expensive artists. But like, why not, you know, unless your son and daughter is in the industry, of course you give money to them. But what about the rest of it? What about understanding and supporting filmmakers that has truly something to say, or just for the sake of art? And that's the sad part of the reality of the situation. But anyway, so let's
doom
make
and gloom. So doom and gloom.
But no, not all.
No,
doom
but look
and
at
gloom.
Finas, but they're very proud of all these films that make over 10 million. So we should share that.
I share the joy and optimism, the fact that we had crossed the 10 million mark.
It's great that there are blockbusters. I really like it. And
I young
saw
people.
Papa Zola. I was amazed. There was a full house in Perlis. So I traveled all the way to Perlis
to watch Papa Zola.
To watch a movie in the first cinema in Perlis. Actually,
GSC.
Yes. GSC Kanga Mall. And it was like full house. Every film screening they had was full house because it was Avatar and all that. So like buying the ticket, because I'm used to buying in Terengganu, where you buy, you have to choose you're in the male or female side. Then the Perlis one didn't seem to have. So it's still like you have to see things on the ground to see what the difference. So, and you know, our animation movies, I think they do something that almost all our live action movies fail to do. It really unites. You know, you get the whole audience it was very family crowd, of course.
Right, of course.
But they were along for the ride, and the same feeling when you see Agent Ali, that kind of thing. I think that they're obviously doing something. But
totally.
But there has to be a different level where you nurture in a smaller scale way, and I think that is where Finas can come into play, not to fund these blockbuster kind of things who can get money elsewhere anyway.
They have FIMI,
but
so
to
that's
have
good
something
enough
like
to me.
Cinematheque, where you host film screenings of acclaimed films and you have discussions. And you do it properly, like you pay the licensing fee, you know, which is kind of the bare minimum, you know. And you know, if you can't afford to fly down people who can represent it, then do like a Zoom kind of thing. So that kind of thing, in the long run, it does nurture, you know, the kind of a different level of need. It can't all be about everybody's aiming to be a blockbuster. That kind of thing. And the example I always quote, because I'm old enough to know this shit, is in the first Superman movie, the planet he comes from, there's a kind of a structure. I can't remember what, but there's a kind of a structure, like a cocoon or something. It was inspired by somebody who had seen a Stan Brakhage film, and that prop was there. So it's like, and Stan Brakhage is like ultra experimental, you know, sort of but there was that crossover, you know, it came from for that. And same thing like the movie Alien, you know, the design of the alien is like from this famous, you know, sculpture, that kind of thing. So it's not like, oh, if you make commercial films, you commercial, but you have to be nurtured. It has to come from other places.
I
That's,
totally
I mean, the obvious things would be book adaptations, but in other parts as well, in visual landscape, you know, how much of it is inspired by paintings, how much of it is that, and you will only know that if the people who are engaged in it have that kind of exposure and curiosity about what's around them.
Yeah.
So that's why, I think Cinematheque is a great idea. I don't know why it's never been pursued. I would think like that, because if FINAS is like to develop, right, film development, so that's what you develop.
Yeah.
You develop the potential filmmakers, but also more importantly, potential audience, right?
I totally agree. It's the audience. It's the audience. It's the whole, educating of the audience.
Yeah, but like I said, the way the pandemic changed, at least for us, for Kuman Pictures, we had this dream of making 3 films a year, and all under $500,000, including promotion. And not all would be for cinema. Some would be straight to Netflix at that time. And then Disney was just starting to open, right? So we had this model where it would roll. So we had enough to make 3 films. But then after that, you know, starting from releasing the first one, then that rolls. So the idea would be every 4 months we release something. Right? So kind of learning from Roger Corman, but he was more prolific. But the pandemic put a damper to that whole thing because cinemas closed for so long, and also like couldn't shoot and things like that. So, and maybe a situation unique to us is that now it doesn't seem possible anymore to make films that go straight to these international OTTs, right? They want only the kind of films that show in cinema first.
Yes.
Right? So that kind of put a damper. So you cannot make films for that kind of budget. So you have to make films for whatever budget, but you still need to spend to release it. So to be honest, Sabong might be our last thing that shows in the cinema in a kind of a big way. We would like to explore other kind of methods where more limited release, doesn't need 50 screens, maybe just 10 screens, and some not released in conventional cinemas at all, like find different ways of renting halls, do that kind of community screenings. So yeah, because to be honest, the idea of releasing in 50 screens, and then like even the most confident person, it will be kind of a blow. And I don't blame cinemas per se, because to me it's opportunity cost. So the analogy is like, I have a bookshop that is small. So we have only like, let's say, I don't know how many shelves, but let's say 30 shelves. So if a book is not selling, why is it taking up one whole shelf? I might as well just take it down, replace it. So I can see the logic of the cinema kind of thing. But
and that was Amir Muhammad, the entrepreneur of FIXI, speaking.
Yeah, because but at the same time, I think not to say it in a kind of a pitying kind of way, but it always helps an ecosystem if you have different levels, different streams, right? Because like even in the West, you know, they have this idea that some films they release very small. They release just like on 10 screens first. Yeah. Even though the country is huge. And only if it has momentum does it then increase. So that's when the market logic comes into place. But we don't have that here. No. We always have, you open as big as you want. Yep. And then the next week, they will say, pada muka lah, who asked you to open so much? But you asked us what?
I mean, you know, the numbers say you need to open so much. I completely subscribe
so
to
I think there needs to be an alternative cinema circuit where we don't depend on it. I mean, ideally, we should have something that is a kind of a pay-per-view, but Malaysians don't like paying for things online. They will wait for it to be on Telegram.
Especially if it's online.
And also, I like the idea of branded content, but in a different kind of way. Because I think if it's a kind of a branded content where it's not like shoving products in your face, but maybe it's like values aligned by that kind of
Everything.
thing.
I totally agree.
by
I mean,
so, but if it's done comedically, I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Like, have you seen Agak Lain? You know, the
way, I see
the
that.
way
The way it's done,
product
it's
is just
such a
so
really
funny.
well
so
done. Yeah,
it's so like,
yeah.
hey, where does that find? Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's because speaking of Agak Lain, I saw the second one in a real cinema in Jogja, and it was so great to see that people were just screaming. They were screaming with joy. It was just
so enjoyable.
so good.
Yeah.
And people were hyperventilating around me. I'm sure, like, I was a bit worried, like, is this woman like choking, that kind of thing, in front. So it's nice to have that thing, but if you don't have that capacity, then do something on a smaller kind of scale. And so I think things are shifting more, and with what didn't used to be considered filmmaking kind of now is, right? Because it used to be that even if you shoot on video, it wasn't taken seriously.
Yeah.
You cannot be eligible for FFM, that kind of thing. So, because
things have
I think
changed.
our weakness also as a business is that, we don't have this kind of long-term projects, right? Which other companies do to sustain themselves, lah. So we need to find something. But yeah, in the meantime, we're going more into
books.
we're going more into distribution.
Yeah.
Yeah. So picking fight with Skim Wajid Tayang is a great way to start our distribution career. We've only released one last year, Simple Manushan, and this year we're trying to release one, but we're having a bit of problem. But I think distribution also is something we would like to learn, because I think it's part of the ecosystem that is often kind of overlooked also.
Yeah.
So we want to see, what can be done.
And
distribution can be creative.
Yeah, totally. All right, thank you, Amir. Thank you, Amir, for this. This has been fun. I mean, it will be like a 4-hour thing.
Yeah.